everybody, welcome back. It is Monday, June 24th, 2024, and you are listening to episode 190 of the Midnight Film Society podcast. I'm your host, Damian Sherman. Joining me today is...
Derick McDuff.
On today's show, believe it or not, we are halfway through 2024, which means Derick and I will be counting down the top 10 best movies of the year so far. But before that, we'll go over some movie and TV news, get into some what we've been watching, including season premiere of The Boys, the roast of Tom Brady, and take a shallow dive into the biggest release of the year so far, Pixar's 28th feature film, Inside Out. Right into the show, Midnight Film Society at gmail.com, Bicycle on Twitter, Midnight Film Pod on Instagram, subscribe on Pocket Cast, YouTube Podcast, Spotify, rate and review it on Apple Podcasts, tell a friend, family member, or stranger. What's up, man? How we doing?
We're doing well, better than last night when we tried to record and I had some technical difficulties,
Yes.
but got all those sorted out, so here we are. Things are smooth sailing tonight, so far at least.
Yeah.
Hopefully I didn't jinx us.
Yeah. I was texting you that we might have tornado warnings over here, and we got nothing. We got literally nothing. Which, how often does it happen to you over there, where the weather guy's like, batten down the hatches, you're gonna get a major storm, and like nothing happens.
Well, it's interesting because we don't get a lot of intense weather here. What we get is earthquakes,
Yeah.
But we do sometimes get the El Nino stuff, which is usually pretty accurate. But there was it was about a year ago, I guess, maybe a little bit less, when they were like, "There's this hurricane of the century. It's a hurricane like this hasn't hit in Southern California in 100 years." Yeah. And it was I just walked to a 7-Eleven outside, and I was like, "Whatever."
Yeah. I guess it's better to be safe than sorry with those type of things.
Yeah. What was really fucked up is California's infrastructure is not supported for rain, so that kind of it wasn't so much as the people, it's dangerous to be outside, but it was just there's a lot of water and nowhere for it to go.
Yeah, well, that's just a whole kit and caboodle. That's a whole thing with the infrastructure of the U.S. in general.
Yeah,
we can talk about that later.
Especially California. Because we don't get rain, so when we do get it, it's bad.
Very bad. Yes. Let's get into some movie and TV news. The most recent thing was Donald Sutherland. I always called him Sunderland for some reason. Donald Sunderland and Keith Sunderland, but apparently it was Sutherland.
Kiefer's dad. Kiefer's dad.
Kiefer's daddy passed away on the 20th, so just a couple days ago. Didn't know this, but he was a Canadian actor. Worked in many, many roles. Early roles in the Dirty Dozen and the MASH movie and Kelly's Heroes in 1970. Went on to do things like Clute, one of Alan Bacula's part of his trilogy of movies. Really great, underrated, under-talked about Don't Look Now, a thriller directed by Nicholas Roeg from 1971. Really, if anybody's watched those 30 greatest moments in horror, that's on there. That was on the original, I believe, 10 or 20 years ago. An incredible ending. Just a bunch of stuff. I watched Invasion of the Body Snatchers fairly recently, classic from 1978 with a very, very young Jeff Goldblum in that cast, along with Donald Sutherland and Leonard Nimoy, Veronica Cartwright. And of course, obviously President Snow in the Hunger Games franchise. Yeah.
Yeah, iconic. That was definitely what I knew him before that, but me being in my early to mid 20s when those movies were coming out, being a very big fan of the books, I was like, this guy he's perfectly cast. He's so good and evil, but just in a way that you're like you get him. You understand his motivations. So he's very good. He's also the dad in Pride and Prejudice, and he's one of the greats.
One of the greats, passed away on June 20th at the age of 88. Yep. So there's that. We got some distribution news. Mr. Coppola's biggest movie, most recent movie, Megalopolis, has got
first movie in 20 years.
First movie in 20 years. Megalopolis debuted at Cannes. Got one of those 6-minute, 7-minute ovations at the Cannes Film Festival, but found distribution under Lionsgate. So that is slated to be released stateside on September 20th. How excited are you for this? Is this one of those that, we'll see it, right? But how excited are you to actually watch it?
I mean, I'm more curious than excited.
Right.
I think would be the way to put it because it's just like, all right, what's this? He's been trying to make this movie for like 4 decades,
Yeah.
and he just like Kings keep getting away. It's not hasn't have money. 9/11 happened when he was first trying to make it. So like I'm just gonna be like, what is this thing? And
Yeah.
it's mixed things coming out of the gate about what it's like. So I really just want to see what could it be. There's a big upside, but I'm not like putting chips down on it or something.
Yeah, it's just always interesting to see like what are you what's the story you've been dying to tell? What is the
Right.
script? Is it still relevant? I've always been curious. Like if I had asked him one question, like what has changed in the 20 years since you started making it? Did you say the end? Did you write the script and put it away in a lockbox and didn't touch it for 20 years? What would have this movie looked like 20 years ago when you first were trying to make it? Was there major structural changes to the narrative at all? Obviously, cinematically, and different actors would be in it. But what changed? What if anything changed from the first time you penned this to now?
My guess is that it's like a James Cameron Avatar thing, right? Where he's got this cool world that he's built. He's got this idea for like this really like this general story, but I don't think like just like how Cameron, especially that first Avatar, there's not a lot story wise, and it's like whatever. It's just kind of like it felt like him being like, this is this place, this story I've wanted to tell for a while, and here's this idea that I've had in my head for Pandora. I think Megalopolis is the same kind of thing. If I had to surmise something about it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's a correct assessment of what that movie's probably going to be. The next thing we got to talk about, I can't get into the article because I reached my vulture limit of the month, so I'm going to find another article here.
I can send you the Forbes one I was looking at.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great. So if you had to guess, Derick, if you didn't see this, if you didn't see this article I sent or put on the outline, what would you have guessed was the most popular streaming service in 2024?
What you put was not exactly accurate because the most popular streaming service is Netflix, and I think it's followed by Amazon. But number three is very surprising because I think that um yeah it's pretty shocking what
Yeah.
actually, because you would think, oh, Disney Plus or something like that
Yep.
would be next up on the list, going for that second place behind Netflix or third place, but it's not that.
Yes, it is Tubi. Tubi
Tubi.
Hive, rise up.
Mhm.
I know Sean Fennessy and Chris Ryan always talk about Tubi, watching stuff on there, especially when it comes to, B movies, horror B movies. They always like to see that stuff on there. I think it probably helps, right, Derick, that it is free. Am I correct in that a free
Oh yeah,
streaming
it's free.
service?
It's
Free,
what they
so
call a fast, which is free uh, with advertisements. I forget exactly what it stands for, but yeah, it's
yep.
one of those. There's a few of those out there, but Tubi, like Roku channel and Freevee and stuff, but Tubi, and I've always been on the like Tubi like train, just like I love Tubi, and man, they're killing it like out of nowhere.
You were into Tubi before it was cool, is what you're saying.
Ha! I don't know about that, but
Okay, all right.
they got
So
some good shit, and that's the thing. Here's the thing, right?
yeah,
Because Tubi's library is so good. They don't put out a lot of original stuff. There's not really there. I mean, there's a couple Tubi originals, but it's lower class. It's basically Tubi's model is kind of like Netflix in like 2011, whereas like where they just have a deep cat. Like I think they have like twice the catalog that like even a Netflix has.
yeah,
Um, they have a deep catalog, a lot of older stuff, a lot of stuff that just all these old prestige shows that other studios don't want anymore. Whereas Netflix and a lot of the imitate and everybody who's trying to imitate Netflix is trying to copy Netflix in like 2019, and it's not really working out financially for them. They're putting out all this very very expensive original content where Tubi's just like, yeah, we're free, whatever. You want to watch 13 seasons of like this show from like the 80s? Yeah, go
yeah.
for it. You want to watch this movie that like you like there's a lot of really great movies on here. Just watch
Yes.
a couple ads, which are also on all the There's most of the streaming services now what you'll pay $6 and still have to watch ads. It's like, oh, if you really want to skip the ads, you have to pay us, $15. So it's becoming, I think, as the prices are going up, as they're introducing these ad plans, if people are like, well,
Yep.
if I'm paying for this anyway and I have to still watch ads, I might as well just watch at the one with the ads that I don't have to pay for.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just on the Tubi site right now, just looking through what they have on the main page. And they got We're the Millers, they got King Arthur, Legend of the Sword, they got The Road, and then they got Tenet on here. Do you are you like me and you feel like the ever encroaching march of death when things are streaming on a streaming service, when it's like that just came out? No, that was like 4 years ago. Yeah, Tenet was
Yeah,
was
that was like the first movie to come out during the pandemic. Remember, there was the whole thing with
yes,
Christopher Nolan. He's like,
yes.
I'm gonna put it out, and people were like, don't. And he's like, I'm gonna do it.
I'm gonna do it. You can't stop me. So yes, go head out to Tubi if you just want some sick movies for no money.
Tubi Nation, rise up.
Exactly. Next up on the docket, Sony Pictures buys the Alamo Draft House. So this is big news for anybody that's worried about monopolies and worried about one company owning the pipes, owning distribution, and the end point there where you own the means of production, you own the production, you own distribution, and you own what's the word I'm looking for? Presentation, I guess. So yeah, Sony Pictures, obviously, owners of the very popular, not Spider-Man universe, but everything else but Spider-Man universe.
Yes.
Bought an Alamo Draft House. Now, if you're thinking, hey, wait a second, I thought studios couldn't own theaters. Well, sorry to let you in on a little secret, but the Trump administration either let it lapse or forced it to lapse. I'm not sure which.
It was his Department of Justice removed. They're called the Paramount
Decree.
the Paramount Decree. Yeah, and they removed it essentially.
Yeah, it was. I think I read some things where it said it was set to expire in 2020 and it needed to be reestablished or something like that. The other thing that I haven't seen a lot of people talk about, which is the fact that it was called the Paramount Decree because Paramount was involved in it. I think at that point there's been studios established since then that are not included in that decree. Places, things like Disney, and I think there were some major studios that are now established since then that were not part of that agreement. So just to put this out there,
a name for it, yeah,
sure,
it was
but
like
yeah,
there was like MGM and stuff like that. It
MGM,
also affected.
yes,
It was,
that's correct.
Yeah, it wasn't saying like Disney was around. I don't think
Yes.
they owned studios. They RKO distributed their films at the time, but
That's exactly what I was thinking of. Yeah, thank you. It was, and so I'm just putting this out there because there's always these stories of like, the sky is falling because now they're able to own theaters. And I'm just wanting to sort of reassure people that it's not the end of the world, that it is, that some studios were able to buy studios or to buy theaters. They just didn't. So, let me ask you, is there any Alamo Draft House near you? Have you been to an Alamo Draft House?
No and no.
No. Okay.
But I do have a lot of thoughts on this.
Go ahead.
And so like like you said, it's called the Paramount Decree. That was just a name for it. No studios for about 80 years, I think it was, could own a theater. It didn't matter. Like studios were not allowed to own movie theaters because of the monopolies that Paramount, MGM, other studios would have, where they would just buy up these studios and rack up the prices and not allow other things. It was monopolies, like you said. There was a law put into place allowing them to not do that. It was repealed by Trump's DOJ, of course, in 2020 because, of course. But I have mixed feelings about this because on one hand, it's like, monopolies are a bad thing, and this could, there was a law put into place because of this. Also, the world, and specifically the movie industry and the theater industry, were very different 80 years ago. There was no television 80 years ago, right? There was no streaming. There was no DVDs. There was none of this, right?
Yep.
So monopoly, like movie theaters were the way to see movies.
Yes.
Now we're in a very different environment. Now we're in an environment where, there are all these things, and movie theaters, which dominated the landscape. Like Alamo Drafthouse, the reason they got bought out is because they were in trouble financially.
Yeah.
Regal's famously been in trouble financially. I think AMC's doing okay, but a lot of these big theater chains are struggling, and Sony buying them, it could be bad. Like they're saying, we're gonna keep, distributing to all the other studios and stuff like that. So I'm like, all right, hopefully that's the case. Like if it was Disney buying them, I'd be like, okay, Disney has some shady practices when releasing like movies and stuff like that. But Sony is interesting that they bought it because it's Alamo Drafthouse. They're a very prestigious thing that they go around, like you're talking, they'll like shh, and they'll take your phone away and they'll make you leave or whatever. And then they'll give you a hamburger or like to the person next to you.
Yeah.
But Sony, unlike all these other, because we just talked about a ton about streaming, Sony's like the one kind of studio that didn't get into that streaming game. They're like, no, we actually care about the theatrical experience. We're not trying to push streaming like all these other ones are. We really do care about putting our movies out in theaters. When everyone else was pivoting in 2020, they didn't launch a Sony Plus or something like that. And so this seems to be them doubling down on that. And it's actually kind of surprising that any of the studios, Disney, Sony, anyone else, could have bought a theater chain in the last 4 years, and it's only now happening. So that's interesting. So I'm really curious to see where this goes. I'm not saying I'm in support of it necessarily, but it's not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that's the theory is, right? You get one company that does the production and the distribution and showing the movies. You can cut out a lot of the negotiations, right, between the studios and the distributors and the productions. You can just say, if you're doing theoretically, if you're doing all of that, you should be able to talk to yourself and be like, okay, distribution is going to cost this much. Tickets are going to cost this much. One thing I hope they don't change is obviously the thing you mentioned, which is they take, not talking and not being yourself on very seriously. And I hope they just keep that too. I hope that expands too, because man, let me tell you, I've seen about 4 movies in the past couple of weeks in theaters, and it is rough out here, man. It is not good. Just to speak to theaters not doing well, you mentioned a bunch of them that are not doing well. I have an independent theater near me called the Triplex Cinema. It started in 1997. They've been up and down recently, as many theaters are since the pandemic. I saw a movie I'll talk about later there a couple days ago, and they have a big poster out front saying we need like $200,000 to make rent next month to pay our mortgage. We need $200,000, and we need in addition to buying a ticket and concessions, can you please also donate? And I think that's putting way too much on the consumer. I think we talked about last time where I just said the consumer is broke. The consumer has no more money. So what they're going to have to do is either lower ticket prices, make it cheaper. There's a reason why Tuesdays are always the biggest movie day of the week, is because that's when ticket prices are the lowest. So again, theoretically, Sony owning all the means productions should lower prices and should make things easier. But again, right? All this stuff, all of the idea of one company owning everything and making everything easier is probably not going to happen, because you always have to account for greed. So yeah, I think you're... Yeah, all that.
Definitely. It's we'll see how it goes, and if this leads to a domino effect where all the other studios are buying theater chains, and we'll see. Yeah.
Oh, the other thing
goes, because it could go either way.
One thing I did want to mention, which we can use the pivot into the next story, is again with Triplex and them asking for more money from people. The theater was packed. I'm going to theaters a lot. I'm going to movies a lot, and seeing things in theaters. I went to one in New York State, which was maybe 15 people out of like a 300 seat theater, which is not great. But then I went to the Triplex theater, which was like a 30 seater, which was, or maybe 50. It had been 50, almost filled. So if you're bringing in people and you're making as much money as you can, right, filling the theater, that's the only way you're going to make money, and people are coming in to pay the ticket to watch it. What's going on? I need to see your books, please, sir, ma'am. Open your books, because if you're bringing in the people and they're buying the tickets and the theater's packed and you're not making money, there's something wrong there. So, just saying that.
Well, that's the thing is like studios take anywhere between 50 and 90% of the ticket sales.
Yeah.
Really, theaters make their money off of concessions. And I think that's the thing. Like you said, the consumer has no money, and
Yes.
they're not going to go buy popcorn when they have no
Yes.
money. They're going to buy the ticket and they're going to go watch their movie. So, yeah, I think that's a big thing. And is the studios taking a big chunk of the money? And so I wonder how Sony owning, the Alamo Drafthouse will affect that. It might be a thing like with Movie Pass, where Movie Pass, just really changed the way that I think a lot of people see movies. Definitely changed the way that I see movies. So I don't know. And my theater that I worked at when I was a kid or when I was a teenager closed down recently. Not recently, it was pre-pandemic. So
Yep.
a lot of these places are in trouble, especially the ones that aren't part of the big nationwide chains.
Yeah. So speaking of people going out, seeing movies, spending a lot of money at the theater, Inside Out 2 delivers historic 155 million U.S. opening. That's even more. We'll talk about that in a second. This article is from the 16th. 295 million. That's more now. Globally, this is an article from June 16th. Huge fucking opening. Yeah. I saw it. I predicted it. Did I put it into my summer movie wager? Nope, sure didn't.
You put it at like number 7 or something insane like that. Yeah. I remember when it came up. Let's go to the tape, because when it came out, I put it at number 3, and you're like, number 3? Pixar movies don't make money.
Traditionally, they don't. During the pandemic, after the pandemic, have not been doing well at all. But we're broken that trend here with Inside Out 2. Derick, what was your theater status? Did you a lot of the packed theater?
It was very packed. A lot of people. The thing is, I was like actually trying to buy this movie, or I was going to see this movie, and I was like. Every single theater was like packed, and I have 2 theaters around me, one with 30 screens, one with 15. At least half of both of those theaters were playing Inside Out on the Dolby, on the IMAX, in 3D and 2D. And I was like, let me find a showing that has the least amount of people in it, because I don't want to be sitting by myself next to a 12-year-old watching this movie. Because there was like individual seats, but I was like, I found like a row that was empty. Of course, by the time I got there, most of that row was sold. This will also speaking of the theater experience, they couldn't fucking turn the lights off for the first 15 minutes, and it was really distracting.
Yeah.
Like overhead cleaning lights were still on for like the beginning of the movie.
Wow.
So that was really annoying. But I went to the least packed show on. It was like a Thursday night or something like that, and it was on 3D, and it was still to the gills.
Yeah. Yeah, doing very well. It's a very good movie. We'll talk about that later. But good to see. But again, if the movie's making money, the studio's making money, the theaters, theoretically, right, making money, and they're still struggling. What is going on? Like you said, the movie studios probably taking too big of a chunk, and that is not going to stop if they're just owning the theater. You know what I mean?
This movie is the first movie that's really done super well this year.
Yeah.
Dune 2 did pretty well.
Yes.
And Apes did okay, but I think this movie is going to be very good for theaters. I think that this movie doing this well in theaters is a very good sign for those theaters.
Yeah, let me just look up the Box Office Mojo, Inside Out 2, Box Office Mojo, up to the minute. So we got domestic opening weekend. Domestic. We got 355 million. Is that right? What the fuck? Really?
That cannot be right.
That's domestic 49%. Anyways, so it's domestic opening 154, which is huge. I'm old enough to remember when a good opening weekend was like 50 million, and 100 million, which was like holy shit.
We've been getting $50 million weekends, and it's not good anymore. I'll say that.
Right. Okay, sorry. So Box Office Mojo official gross, domestic gross, $255 million, worldwide or internationally, $369 million, worldwide, $724 million. So it's on pace to hit the billion, the big B, $1 billion. It's insane. So do you want to pivot to summer movie wager? Or you want to talk any more about the theater experience?
No, let's pivot over to the summer movie wager. See how we're doing over there.
Summer movie wager, we are hot. It's the hot time of the year, late June. It is warming up outside and inside. So we're close. You and I are close. We're not close to number one. We're not close to the top of the heap whatsoever.
Well, not there's a lot of movies to come out. Let's slow our roll. Half
right.
my list hasn't.
I'm just the state of the union.
Yeah.
The state of the union is not good. Derek, you have 22 points. I have 21. So we're tag teaming the bottom here. So we're not doing well at all. The best
you can't
prediction.
Take
I'm just saying
anything
right now.
by this point.
I'm just stating right now what the status of the competition is.
Just wait till Kraven the Hunter comes out and you skyrocket up this list.
So like you said before, I put Inside Out way too low. I had no faith in it whatsoever. I had that at 7, so that only yields me 3 points right now. I have 5 points from Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. I have 5 points from If. That's one of my good predictions. What's one of the standouts here,
we'll see
everybody else.
Yeah, we'll see how long that lasts.
Most other competitors that I'm looking at right now of /film and you have 1 point from If. I have 5 points. I also have 5 points from the Fall Guy, and I have 3 points from Furiosa. You are in a similar boat, let's say.
No. My boat is a very different boat because, like I said, I have. We both might lose the Fall Guy here. We're like you're 5, my 7. That's probably gone. If we'll see if it probably will. It might hang on to a 9 or 10. It might fall off completely. And then I had Bad Boys at 10. It's looking like that's gonna be right around where it's gonna be. Yeah. I had Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. I had it at the middle of the list. With a lot of stuff still coming out. I think that's pretty good. I had Inside Out 2 at 3. So right now it's at 1, but there's 2 very big movies, Deadpool and Despicable Me, that are coming out. So, if one of the, I might be right on with that. I might be one off. We'll see. I think I'm in a pretty good position here because, I don't think that Furiosa is going to make it to number 2, Damian. I'm sorry to tell you. And Fall Guy is not going to make it to 3.
Yeah.
So your list is wild, man. Your list is
you're looking towards the future. Right now, I'm in the present. It's a gift. That's why they call it a present. So you appreciate what you have.
I'm still beating you in the present, but
by 1 point. Explain to me the scoring process here. How does a person get 13 points?
13 points is if you're dead on. If you have, say that I had picked Inside Out at number 1, and it is currently at number 1, I would have 13 points.
Currently,
so
gotcha.
Yeah, which is why you have 5 points for the Fall Guy right now, because you're a couple points off. Yeah. Those points are going to decline. Same thing with If as it gets, and Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes as it gets further. Those movies inevitably get further and further down because other bigger movies are coming out.
Sure,
those are going to be pushed and things will get more minuscule. Although those other movies coming in might get you some points if Horizon and American Saga does really well.
It might.
I mean, I could pull out a number 10. What do you got? You got a number 10 there,
Yes.
Yeah. So we'll see how things go. But too early to tell anything at this point.
Sure.
Except for Kraven the Hunter is sure to be the.
All right, buddy.
of the summer.
Yeah. All right, so there's that. Let's get to some what I've been watching. I do have Hitman on here still, just because I wanted to, include it in my Glenn Powell marathon.
It was so nice. You talked about it twice.
Exactly. So that's on there. I'll be talking about Glenn Powell in a second, but I want to mention, finally saw one of the big ones, one of my big blind spots on my watch list for Letterboxd. Martin Scorsese's Silence. I put this on as a follow-up to Shogun, because obviously Shogun takes place a couple years before. Yeah, a couple years before Silence does. So I've put this on and very much enjoyed myself. It's a very good movie. Obviously, it's one of Martin Scorsese's big ones. I don't believe it competed. Did it compete for any Oscars that year? I'm trying to see. Maybe
it did not. It was a bee in my bonnet when I talked about it back on Underrated a while back. This is one of my favorite Scorsese movies, one of my favorite movies ever, and I don't think it really got that much Oscar play, which is a shame.
No Oscar play, and did not do well at the box office at all. Grossed $7 million in the U.S., $16 million in other territories, for a total of $23 million on a budget of $40 to $50 million. So, if I had to guess, Scorsese was talking recently about how The Irishman was tough. It was a tough sell. Right, he had to shop it around, eventually finding Netflix, obviously. But when he was talking about that, I always like, wait, what? Why? He's fucking Martin Scorsese. Why was that a tough sell? But apparently, probably the studio probably had a bad taste in their mouth after Silence. So I can sort of understand that given that context. It's very good movie.
I mean, we talked about how Francis Ford Coppola, who made the fucking Godfather and Apocalypse Now, couldn't get a movie made for 20 years because he made fucking One from the Heart or whatever.
Yeah. Going to this, I wasn't sure. I hadn't seen this. I hadn't seen any previews. I wasn't sure who was going to be on screen a lot of times and whose perspective we're going to see is what I'm trying to say. But it ended up being pretty much Andrew Garfield's perspective. Adam Driver Adam Driver's taken prisoner for a long time, so he's whisked off and comes back at the very end in a very, very good scene. One of the best scenes I've seen from this movie. Andrew Garfield's incredidible in this.
You're talking about Liam Neeson.
Liam Neeson shows up at the end, but so does
Andrew
really
Garfield Adam Driver is spoiler alert, gone by the middle of this movie.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah, Andrew Garfield is your protagonist in this.
Yeah,
really good. One of his best roles I've ever seen him in. Obviously, it's you put somebody in that type of role, they're going to turn out a pretty good performance when it's all of that stuff, the dirty, grimy. I think that probably helps give him the motivation to give that type of performance. But very, very, very good.
This is the movie that sold me on Garfield because I was kind of lukewarm on him, but God, he's so good in this. He's so fucking good in this movie. This is it's a masterpiece. This movie, it's a movie that wrecks me every time I watch it.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I'm watching and I'm like, very little score. Throughout this, and then of course picks up at the end to get that emotional weight at the end there. I'm just trying to see Mr. Garfield's filmography. Yeah, it's two bangers in the same year. In 2016, he did Hacksaw Ridge and Silence. So two very very physically demanding roles back to back.
Yeah. No, I have a different opinion on Hacksaw Ridge. Go
ahead.
Yeah. I think about as much of that movie as you think about Echo. This is my
Jesus, the Echo slander keeps coming, man.
Wow, Echo is incredible. Are you kidding me? But yeah.
Okay. So that's Silence. Let's go to you. Check out the roast of Tom Brady. I've seen like a clip. I've seen like the same clip like 4 or 5 times because it's so good. Mr. What is his name that I go back to? Tony Hinchcliffe just kills this. He's one of my favorite comedians. He is in that like group of folks of that Joe Rogan type, Joe Rogan posse. That's really kind of the gross crew over there.
Right.
Yeah, but if anybody hasn't seen it and doesn't want to watch the entire thing, highly recommend just Googling Tony Hinchcliffe, roast of Tom Brady. Just killed it from beginning to end. Nikki Glazer, I'll let you talk about your thing you watched.
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah.
Nikki Glazer also killed it. So tell me what you thought of the roast of Tom Brady.
Yeah, Nikki Glazer's great. Well, it's interesting because you're a New England guy, so I know you just talked a bunch, but are you I know you're not a sports guy.
Yeah.
Are you up to date with Tom Brady? Do you
yes.
like him? Do you not like him?
He's fine.
Like him?
Okay. So I'd like his. I just admire people, or I admire the athlete part of him that has won all those things. I don't give a shit about Deflategate. I don't give a shit about them cheating and stealing plays or whatever. You still have to perform. You still have to do the thing, even if you know what play is going to be played, even if the ball's a little deflated. So
you're saying that you think that Lance Armstrong was robbed and that we should reinvent. Okay, all right, okay, good.
Yes.
I'll just say I fucking hate Tom Brady.
Okay.
I fucking hated him my whole life. He's always been the bad guy in the NFL. And I'm a big Rams fan, and he beat us when I was a kid in the Super Bowl. He beat us a couple years ago in the Super Bowl, and I just fucking hate the Patriots. They're pure evil. Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, all these fucking assholes. Some of the people are literally murderers on the team. But Tom Brady, cheating, snake oil salesman, TB12 method, dickhead. This is my favorite thing in the world when he was like, I'm gonna go back for one more year, and then his wife and kids left him. It was great. But
Jesus.
But no, this was this was great because it was just people tearing into Tom Brady for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Including Drew Bledsoe, the one Patriot I actually like. Him and Aaron, or not Aaron Hernandez, he's a murderer. Rob Gronkowski.
Yes.
There were some great jokes about Aaron Hernandez in the special,
Yeah.
but Gronk was just a big, dumb, lovable goof.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was very funny. You already brought up some of the better performers. Nikki Glazer's stuff was really great. So it was nice to see just because I watched it with my brother who it was on my brother's bachelor party. We were just up late and at the hotel room watching something to wind down, and he put this on, and he loves Tom Brady, and I was just like, I fucking hate this guy. We both were laughing our asses off. So if you are a sports fan, if you're somebody like me who does not like Tom Brady, I'd say this is a good watch. This is very enjoyable. They point out a lot of things about how he's a cheater and lost all his money to crypto and all that good stuff. So it was fun.
Yeah. It's the behind the scenes of it seems very interesting because they had Robert Kraft there who got a hand job at a strip club or whatever, right? And that was one of the things it's one of those that different people have different perspectives or different takes on this. What happened when Tony Hinchcliffe went up there? He made a joke about him getting a hand. No, was it him or was it? No. It was roast master guy, the guy that used to host all the roasts. What's his name? The bald guy.
Jeff Ross.
Jeff Ross was making a joke about him getting a hand job, and Brady said something either in jest or seriously about shutting the fuck up about it. It's like, first of all, you got a bunch of money. You're rich and famous. You're beautiful. You can take. You should take any jokes. If I was rich and famous, I would take any joke towards me. I'd be like, I don't give a fuck. I got a castle in Rome. I don't fucking care. Nothing. You can't touch me with any of this shit. So that was kind of weird. What else was I gonna say? Just all very funny shit. One of the funniest roasts I've seen in a long time. Yeah, very good stuff. Very, very, very funny.
Yeah. Tom Brady obviously can't really take a joke. And kind of was a little butthurt after the roast. Yeah, so which is great. I love it. You'll love to see it.
I've always there was stories about Netflix hosted it, so there was a bunch of things that I think Tony talked about later of Netflix executives and craftspeople gave them some notes about you can say this, you can't say that, stuff like that. Yeah,
checks out. But I think a lot of the comedians just was like, "Fuck it, we're going to talk about the hand job," which is great. Good for them. Yeah,
and I think there was another. Well, we can move on to something else, but the. There was something about, it was live, which is interesting that Netflix is getting into that industry.
Right.
If you watch it live, you saw some stuff that they cut out later, right? Is what I heard.
I did not watch it live, so I don't know.
Yeah. So there's that. That's the roast of Tom Brady. That's on Netflix. Speaking of the Glenn Powell songs, Glenn Powell in Hitman that I checked out. So I went back and checked out some other stuff I hadn't seen. His other Richard Linklater, Glenn Powell collaboration. Everybody wants some with the exclamation marks.
Gotta have the exclamation marks.
Exclamation marks, yes. I've heard very good things about this when it came out, but I never get around to checking it out until now. It's very good. It's a very, very good one of those. It's got kind of a mean sort of tone to it just because the subject matter is, freshmen coming into a frat in the 80s. You have all of that, good-natured ribbing, but it's also some of these guys are actually, assholes and dangerous and psycho dudes, sexual assaulters and shit like that. So there is that sort of mean, scary undertones to it. But yeah, it's very much a follow-up to Dazed and Confused, but in the 80s. I can imagine seeing this in 2016 and being like, yeah, that Glenn Powell guy, he's got it. He's got that pizzazz, and we'll probably be seeing more of him in pretty soon. But yeah, it's very funny. It moves. It's got some great jokes. But the thing I noticed here while watching it, I was looking up people's names in it to see, did anybody else break out other than Glenn Powell? And you have a couple of names, and that's about it. You have Glenn Powell and you have Zoe Deutsch, and those are the two names I recognize, from this movie that moved on and did other things. Tyler Hoechlin is Superman in Lois.
Superman, yeah.
He's Superman, yeah. So that's the other name I recognize here, but pretty much everybody else, I'm like, who is that? Where did they go? Where do they go after this? Wyatt Russell is also obviously in Winter Soldier, in the Winter Soldier show, Captain America Winter Soldier show. But yeah, lot of names in here that sort of fell off the face of the earth after this movie. But yeah, very good. Definitely recommend checking it out. I think it's on Netflix right now.
Okay, I might have to. I don't know. I'm not a Linklater guy,
You're
as
not a
I've
Linklater guy,
discussed
yeah, yeah.
this before.
Let's go back to you. You checked out a movie. Let me see, is it a movie or a TV show? What do you got here? It's The Cage.
Yes. So this is actually. I've been watching a lot of Star Trek.
Yep.
Talked about. I think not too long ago. I watched all of Star Trek Lower Decks, which is fantastic. And then I was like, you know what? Okay, I got Paramount Plus. Let's watch some more Star Trek. So I started Strange New Worlds, which is very very good. It's follows Christopher Pike and his crew, and Mr. Spock and a lot of those guys. But for people who don't know, Christopher Pike was actually the original guy who was supposed to be the lead of Star Trek before Captain Kirk was even imagined. Because
Gotcha.
when Gene Roddenberry first pitched Star Trek, he actually shot a pilot with Spock, with Leonard Nimoy. He was the only one who came back, and a guy playing a character named Christopher Pike, as well as a whole other cast. That original pilot got rejected by CBS, but CBS did an interesting thing where they're like, well, we don't want to make this because it's a little too cerebral and you have women in power as the first officer, so we don't like that. But try it again and let's see what you get. And of course, he retold it. The guy who played Pike didn't want to come back. Like I said, only Leonard Nimoy came back to play Spock. But you can watch that first pilot called The Cage, which I think got reincorporated into a later episode of Star Trek. But if you go to watch Star Trek: The Original Series on Paramount Plus, that first episode is just available. That original unaired pilot, and it's pretty good. You're like, it's really interesting to see. Like, this is the first thing of Star Trek. Period. This is before Star Trek was even Star Trek, and just to see how you're like, wow, this is really held up. Pike is a really great, interesting character. He's in the newer movies with Chris Pratt or not Chris Pratt, Chris Pine and all those
Yep.
guys. Played by Bruce Greenwood. But yeah, this is pretty cool. It's pretty interesting. If you're a Star Trek fan, I think that this is one that is honestly really worth going back to.
Nice, very cool. Where'd you see this?
Paramount Plus. It's right in there.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah,
said,
yeah, of course.
you just go back and you just watch the first. You go to Star Trek episode 1 of Star Trek before even the real series. It's listed as like the first episode of the show.
Nice, very cool. Does that work in the same way that other Star Trek stuff does? Like, is it okay? This is interesting. I see the bones of it. I see the beginnings of what they were trying to do with the series, or does it feel completely different?
It's amazing how fully formed it is. Like, it feels like Star
Yeah.
Trek. There's a couple things that are a little bit weird, like they print out papers every once in a while, which is like something that would not happen. Like, somebody hands somebody like, here's a report, and somebody hands Pike a paper.
Yep.
And that's just something that you would not see like in modern Star Trek. And I think they call the phasers laser beams, but that's about it. Like, it's other than that, it's like Star Trek, to the point where it's canon. Like, it is completely like they adopted that into part of actual Star Trek lore and everything. They brought like the character who's number 1, who's the woman who was part of the reason why CBS didn't want to do it, is who had not been mentioned or really anything since that those old days. She's brought back. She's played by Rebecca Romaine on the new show. So it's cool. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
Nice, very cool. So speaking of Mr. Glenn Powell, a movie came out earlier this year, maybe late last year, called Anyone But You, directed by Will Gluck, starring Sidney Sweeney, Glenn Powell, and a bunch of other big actors. A great supporting cast. Rachel Griffiths.
The supporting cast makes this movie, honestly.
Yes, it really does. Rachel Griffiths, which, again, speaking of things that make me feel old, the fact that she's playing a mom with adult children makes me feel old. From because I saw her, first got a crush on her in 6 Feet Under, and very very scary seeing her this age. Her husband in this is Dermot Mulroney, which I can never say quickly.
He's so good in this, by the way.
He's
so good.
He's very good in this.
When he's that scene where he's teaching him to dive,
yes.
I love it.
It's very funny. What? Yes, it's such a quirky little movie. I
Mm-hmm.
love the sort of beginning of it. So you definitely get the tone of it, where they're going with the tone of it from the very first scene, where Sydney Sweeney's in the coffee shop and she has to go pee, and the person's like, "Well, we can't let you use the bathroom. You have to buy something." She's like, "Let me just buy this." Well, you have to
Mm-hmm.
start. You have to go there. Then Glenn Powell's right there, and he's like, "Hey, honey, you can buy this." You know that it's got a very stereotypical rom-com opening, but then she goes to the bathroom and she gets the water all over her and she takes her pants off and uses the thing. I was like, okay, I get the tone of it right off the
Yeah.
bat. I
Yeah.
definitely get what they're going for here. It was incredibly funny throughout. My review on Letterboxd was that despite Sydney Sweeney being so top heavy, she's very good physical comedy. She does physical comedy very well, despite her structure, her body structure there. But yeah, very, very funny. I wasn't expecting like to see Glenn Powell butt ass naked, strip off his clothes because he's being attacked by a spider, but that was very funny. And seeing Sydney Sweeney basically look up his butthole during that scene, that was hilarious. Yeah, some very, very good movie. Highly recommend anyone but you.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. No, I'm not as hot on it as you. I did like it.
Yeah.
It's nice to see a good return to just like a classic rom com. I'm not a fan of Sweeney's acting in this. I'm a little
Nope.
bit
Yeah.
different from you in that I did not think she was great. But yeah, like a lot of the other people, I think like we mentioned Dermot Mulroney, Gata is really great in this. Charlie Fraser as the other dad in this, and then
Yeah.
not Charlie Fraser. What's his name? Brown as the other dad, and then Charlie Fraser, who is amazing. I have a huge crush on her now after she's been in two movies, this and Furiosa, and she's a badass in Furiosa, and she's awesome in
Yes.
this.
Yes.
So yeah, like there's some really good stuff in this, and also you talk about looking up people's holes. You get to see up an Australian guy's dick hole in this movie. It's fucking hilarious.
It is very funny. I think we talked about this before where, was it Glenn Powell? Yeah, Glenn Powell in Hitman.
Mhm.
They're trying to present him as or being able to look like a dork, and he's just not. You just can't do that because he's not that.
Yeah.
And in this, he's like competing with this other guy who's like taller than him and broader than him, but it's like he's not going to be insecure just looking at another guy that's just bigger than him, because
Mhm. Yeah.
that's what they're trying to do. And it's just like, no, I don't, maybe he would, I don't know, but I really don't think he can feel insecure in front of anybody else. I wouldn't if I was him. So
I mean, people get in their own head, imposter syndrome and stuff. I don't know.
it's possible. It's possible. I'm trying to see if there's another rom com that I watched. Oh, it was just called Am I Okay? That was decent. I'll just say that real
Mhm.
quick. It
Okay.
was filmed in like 2022. I think it debuted at a Sundance Film Festival there. Just came out now on Max, the one to watch for HBO. Got a decent Dakota Fanning in here. I think she does the Madame Web thing. But she's definitely very good here. I believe it's the directorial debut of Tig Notaro, comedian I enjoy very much. So yeah, very, very good actually. Sort of exploration of a person who is just like, maybe not asexual or queer or anything like that, but she's just very, confused about what she wants. Molly Gordon, great performance by her in here. Yeah, just a good little indie, good little 86-minute indie rom-com. Am I Okay? That's on Max, the one to watch for HBO. Let's go back to
nice.
you. You checked out Universal Studios Hollywood. What's new here?
Yeah, so I went for the first time in many years to Universal Studios Hollywood with a buddy. I live, Southern California, as people know. So we took a trip down and got to see some movie making history. We took the studio tour with Jaws. This is a pretty cool theme park. It's not Disneyland, and it's not even like Knott's Berry Farm in its quaintness, but it's very unique because it's a working movie studio that also has a bunch of rides.
Yep.
Most of the rides are fucking screens, which is annoying as hell because you just like it's like Optimus Prime is here, and you put on the safety glasses. It's these 3D glasses in our movie. The Harry Potter ride, which I was very excited for, it was cool to be in the Harry Potter land despite J.K. Rowling's rotting brain. It like moved you around. Like the Harry Potter ride was okay, but a little underwhelming. And then the Jurassic Park or Jurassic World ride fucking rules. It's always ruled. That's always been one of my favorite rides. Like I got to go on that again. And then I rode the Mummy ride, which I had not been on since I was a kid, and I thought maybe I'm building this ride up. It's one of the best roller coasters I've ever been on. It fucking rules. You go through the dark, looking at mummies yelling at you. They're just like very cheaply made, but just like You just see these projections of mummies up on the walls. You're in pitch blackness. You get to the end, and then you go backwards, and it's so fucking fun and cool. And the studio tour. Got to mention the studio tour. It's about an hour long. You get to go through the backlot and everything. You go through a room where Peter Jackson's like, "We made fucking King Kong on this screen." You're like, "That's cool." And then King Kong fucking attacks you and shit. And there's a part where like all this watercolor. They do some really cool practical stuff in the tram ride. The tram ride's cool. You're getting to see all this movie history that I really enjoyed.
Nice. Is there anything? Do they have like an Oppenheimer ride yet, or not? Not yet.
That's just like riding on a bomb or some shit like that.
That'd be amazing.
Oh man, that's replacing Transformers. Just like
just a scene of fucking sweaty Cillian Murphy and Florence Pugh just doing it. While he's like, I am death, become destroyer of worlds.
You fucking just the screen, the robot art just moves you over. You just like see Florence Pugh just riding you or something. That's the ride.
Amazing. All right, let me blast through a couple of things here because I got blast through. Boys, it's back. We love it. You love it. I love it. We all love it. Still gross. Still fascist. Still biting satire. Gross stuff. Sex stuff. Guts, blood, and guts. They did mention recently that the fifth season will be the last. They are in the fourth season right now. Eric Kripke, the executive producer and showrunner, said the next season 5 will be the last one. Which is good. You gotta
kill Homelander at some point, honestly.
Yeah, you do.
You know, like they can only keep it going for so many seasons. Like this Homelander guy, we keep not killing him.
Yes. What was I going to say about that? Yeah, you're right. They do have this problem where it's reestablishing the status quo at the end or the beginning of every season, the end of seasons, the end of each season, especially last season, very much cock tease us, and I felt like was one of the weakest endings to a season they've had in a long time. But they seem to, with the kid being part of Homelander, being established as his partner, being established as a superhero now, that's a different thing that they established now. But yeah, just a lot of the same characters, same blood and guts. Jeffrey Dean Morgan joined the cast this season, so I'll be interested to see what he adds to the dynamic between all the cast members. Yeah, it's just really need to up the stakes. I haven't read the books, but I did peruse the Wikipedia summaries of the books, and no spoilers at all, but I'll just say they are going to have to do some major what'd you call that, stakes, upping the stakes, but also upping the violence and upping they're going to have to ask for a lot of money from Amazon because, we saw some of the fights last season between Soldier Boy, which I don't know where he's at. I don't know where, what was the name of the female?
Dude, I don't know. I didn't watch the season. I haven't seen since the beginning of season 3 is the last I saw. So
yeah, there was a female. Remember the 7 that got almost killed because she lost her powers, but then she got them back at the end of last season, so she could come back. But they just need some really knockdown, drag out fights because that is what's missing from the adaptation of the graphic novels. I will say from people that have read the graphic novels and watched the show, they say the show is this leagues above where the book was in terms of quality, in terms of writing, that stuff. So
that's what I hear.
Yeah. So that's The Boys. They're up to episode 4 out of I think an eight episode season. So that is The Boys on Amazon Prime Video. These couple things I will discuss later. I'll talk about those later to skip over them now. So let me get to a little bit of the Best Picture Marathon. I've made some progress. We are getting to the big ones now because I've up to the last thing I watched was Patton, the 3-hour epic with George C. Scott about General George S. Patton, the famous tank commander of World War II, with his career in North Africa through the invasion of Germany in the fall of the Third Reich. This is very, very good. It is it's not a one-hander, it's not a two-hander, but it's essentially following Patton through the wars, through the 39 to 45, and it's just him being that guy, being this. It starts out with him, just getting getting a unit together. He comes on the scene, and the unit's just, lollygagging around. Nobody's wearing their helmets. Nobody's wearing their gear. Nobody's wearing any of the. They don't look like a unit. They don't look like a fighting force. So he definitely pulls them together, and does the thing. George C. Scott, one of the greats, obviously, for a reason. One of my favorites. I have it. Give me a second here. I can pull up my list here of my favorites and where I rank them so far. Out of what I've seen 43 or 44, and I have Patent ranked at. Did I rank it? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't put it in here. I did. Number 15. So that seems low, but it's 15 out of 43. And the things in front of it are, some of the best of the best.
Right. These are good movies.
On the waterfront, Sound of Music is 10. On the Marty's there in the top 10. It Happened One Night. The Bridge on the River Kwai, Casablanca, and The Apartment are some of the things in front of it. So, like I said, still on my docket are Annie Hall, Kramer vs. Kramer, all the stuff we talked about before. So that's where I'm at. Right. Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
So
we'll see how it goes.
Good stuff coming up. Yeah, I'll let you know.
Here's a tidbit. I haven't seen Patton, but I can give you a tidbit on it. Did you know that the musical theme that is involved in this movie, where there's a trumpet that kind of repeats, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Yep.
The reason that was done by let me look up the
Jerry Goldsmith
composer here. Yes, Jerry Goldsmith was because Patton believed in reincarnation. Is why that was. Yeah. So there you go.
That is one of the things I found interesting. Like, he's one of these guys that is held up as, a man's a man. Just very stern and not emotional, but very reserved, very stoic. But he was a learned man. He read poetry, he studied history, he studied historical battles. One of the first things you see in this movie is him in somewhere in North Africa, I think Morocco maybe, and he was just pulled over to the side. They're going to the battlefield, but he pulls over to the side to talk about some Mesopotamian battle from hundreds of years ago. So yeah, it's just it's a portrait of a guy a lot more multifaceted than you would believe on first glance.
Nice. Yeah, yep. I mean, it's on my list of stuff, like all the other best pictures I haven't seen, of stuff to check out. So I'll have to watch it at some point.
Good stuff. Do you want to take a break, or you want to go straight into our review of the week?
Yeah, let's. I mean, I'm good to go into it if you are.
Yeah, absolutely. So, review of the week, we got Kelsey Mann's Disney Pixar's Inside Out 2. This is, heavily anticipated. I love the first one. Did not revisit the first one. Derick, thoughts on the first one, and did you revisit it before Inside Out 2?
The first one is one of my favorite movies of all time. In my ranking it's in my top 10 of films from the decade that it came out, the 2010s. And I did not revisit it. Last time I rewatched it was the day after I got dumped a couple of years back, and I was like, I want to cry right now. Let me put on Inside Out 2. Which I did. It was great. But I was like, I was like, I don't need to revisit. This is not fucking Lord of the Rings. I'm not going to have to remember the details from the first one, so I did not watch the first one.
Yeah, I didn't either. It was not fresh in mind, but it's that you know what it's about, and all the plot points and all of that stuff. It's top of mind. For me as a person that's I'm thinking about for whatever reason. I was talking to somebody the other day about this, and just so much of my life, so much of even my early days is like right there. I can pull those memory strands very easily, moments and feelings from when I was pretty much 13 on, maybe a little bit before, but 13 on definitely. You asked me what happened, where was I, where did I go to school, how did I feel about it? It's right there. I could tell you a lot of stuff. But first Inside Out made $858 million out of a 175 budget, like we already mentioned. This one's on track to surpass that, doing very well at the budget, doing very well at the box office. Derick, why don't you start us out? What'd you think of Inside Out 2?
Yeah, so I like this movie, quite a bit. This was a very anticipated movie for me. It was in my top 3 anticipated movies when we talked about those at the beginning of the year. Like I said, first one is one of my all-time favorite movies, and this is a good film. This is a very good movie. I think, like the first one, it smartly does a lot of stuff by with the kind of interiority of like Riley's mind, like not anthropomorphize it, personifying these emotions.
Yeah.
Like joy and anxiety and stuff like that. Particularly joy and anxiety. There's some interesting concepts like, oh, when you're feeling this anxiety, it's because this and this and this is happening in your brain. I think that all worked really well. Really great performances. Does a lot of good stuff again with the themes of like just like the first one was like sometimes you got to feel sadness. This one did some stuff of like pushing those memories, those bad memories off to the part of your brain where you don't think about them is maybe not a great thing, and maybe will cause some anxiety and how you start to form yourself as a person when you're a teenager, and how you can new emotions and stuff like that and experiences can make you feel like you're becoming a completely different person. I liked all of that. So this is a very, very good movie. It just had a very high bar for
Yeah.
me to clear. And I think it mostly did. But I think it is a little bit sloppier, a little bit messier than the first one. I think because there are so many emotions
Yeah.
that a lot of them, particularly other than joy from the first one and anxiety and some of the other new ones, like it doesn't really matter that they're these emotions. Like they could just be whatever. Like it doesn't matter that anger is doing a thing or disgust is doing a thing. They're kind of just there to move the plot forward and be characters, and it doesn't matter that anger is the one doing a particular thing. He's not affecting Riley's
Yeah.
anger or whatever. It's mostly anxiety and joy. So it's a little overcrowded in that respect. I'm also was also very disappointed that they made the decision not to bring back Bill Hader and Mindy Kaling
Yeah.
because of some salary disputes, which, given how much money this movie made, is absolute bullshit. Because especially since
Yeah.
Hader and Kaling were so instrumental in crafting these characters, and I love Tony Hale, but it's weird to hear him being this character that is just so Bill Hader. But that doesn't take anything away from the other great performances. Maya Hawke as anxiety is so good in this.
She's very good.
And I think that what the first one did so well. I talked about how the first one made me cry, and it will make me cry every time I watch it for the rest of my life. And I was prepared to cry watching this movie, despite me being in a room full of 12-year-olds. I was like, it's dark. Once they turned the lights off, actually, I can cry in peace. There's a few buffer seats on either side.
Yeah.
But I did not cry in this movie. I instead felt incredible anxiety, which checks out. It makes sense for this movie because the first one,
Yeah.
sadness was one of the main characters. A character who was, it was a movie about feeling sadness. This was a movie about feeling anxiety.
Yeah.
And there's a scene where, spoiler, Riley is having a panic attack that I was like, I feel like I'm going to have a panic attack with this
Yeah.
shit. It's so real and visceral, and really did a smart job with making these emotions, like translating these emotions into something that is colorful and a kid could understand. And it also, one last thing I'll say about it too is it looked so good, right? Just like the first one, it's a very unique look. All the characters kind of have this ethereal, fuzzy look around them. But then there would be scenes where they would interact with like other art styles.
Yeah.
There's a scene where they talk to somebody who's like traditionally animated, and also somebody who's like a PlayStation 1 character, like it's Cloud Strife essentially.
Yeah.
And then there's like a character who's like, basically like Dora the Explorer, and you're like, and seeing like the three art styles all interact with each other, it just made my mind so happy. Like I was like, joy is taking the controls now in Derick's brain. So overall very happy with this movie, even if I do have a few gripes.
Yeah, I just want to pivot off what you said there at the end, which is the character design. Let me ask you, just because it's every time I see a new character from Pixar movies now, especially like Toy Story 4 with Forky, I feel like their character design philosophy since Forky and now with anxiety is just like, it's fucking weird. I don't know. It's just a fucking squiggly looking dude thing. I don't know. It's just, I really hope that's not their design philosophy going forward of just like, what's the new guy? What's our new character? Flubbity doo.
Right.
Flibbity. I don't know. It's just a dude.
Well, yeah, it's almost like I think Jeff from Film Slash described the film cast as like they're Muppet-esque.
Yeah.
Which I think is Forky I kind of dig because it's just like it's kind of the whole thing is like Forky is supposed to be just this like whatever some kid, like a fucking fork. That's our character. I kind of love that, but yeah, in this one I do like the design of the new characters, especially Envy. with the
Yeah.
big eyes and stuff like that. And then, Ennui, who is played by
Adele
Adele Extra. Yeah, what was it?
Extraopolis.
Exaropolis, who is, obviously from Blue is the Warmest Color, and then a movie that we both enjoyed quite a bit from last year, which was what was it called?
Looking it
Uh,
up. Yeah.
uh,
Passages.
uh, Passages, yeah. Yeah, which like I'm like, oh yeah, the hot French chick from Passages, she fucking killed it. She's Ennui, perfect,
She's on Wii, yeah. Just speaking to some of the newer characters that I liked, and a movie I just saw. We have, what was her name in the movie and in this? Man, I don't like that they just cut it off. They cut off the actors in here if they don't have many lines. Nostalgia was played by June Squibb. June Squibb is
that was so funny.
93-year-old actress. I'll talk about her later. She's incredible. I never heard of her before. I don't know if you have.
No, I can't say I'm familiar with her.
Yeah, so Nostalgia was new. Loved her. Love, obviously, Maya Hawke, Anxiety. Am I an asshole if I'm like, this is probably one of her best performances?
Yeah, she's so good in this.
She is good.
I love Maya Hawke. She's always great, but like she killed it in this.
We have Disgust, played by Liza Lapira. Liza Lapira.
Yeah, who she's kind of like, she's been stuff like, to me, I was like, Tony Hale's doing his own thing. Liza Lapira is basically just doing a Mindy Kaling impression, where I didn't even realize at first it wasn't Mindy Kaling.
Oh, that was
like,
the
you
thing.
Clock immediately that's not Bill Hader, but you didn't catch that it was her. At least I didn't.
That was the thing that pissed me off about the contract disputes was like, Bill Hader, Mindy Kaling, still out there, still doing stuff, still relevant. Amy Poehler, what's she been doing? I don't like. I understand she was like the lead actress or lead voice actress in the first one, but what has she been in recently?
Wait, so what are you mad about? Like, are you
I'm mad
that
yes, that she asked for and got a much higher payout for this movie than Bill Hader and Mindy Kaling. I feel like they're like when you're arguing for what do they call that contract, when you're doing a contract dispute, what you're bringing to the table is what is your drawing power, right? What I'm arguing is that Mindy Kaling and Bill Hader have higher or what do you call that? Better drawing power. The name Bill Hader will draw more names than Amy Poehler at this point. Maybe 10 to 15 years ago, it would be
that's a fair argument.
Yeah. So, anyways, I wrote up a big review of this. This hit me like a truck. It really did because, like I said, those moments, especially when Riley is walking behind the popular kids, were they high school, right? Freshman high school girls. Yeah. She's walking behind them, and she's just like, "How do I move my arms? My arms are weird. Do I put my arms? I'll just put my arms in the pockets. What are they laughing about? Oh, I should laugh." Had that exact moment many, many times. So I think we talked about this before, where the more specific and more the more specific of a moment, sometimes the more universal it'll be. And I think you disagreed about that, but I do think that hit me because of that. It was such a specific thing of not just being on the outside, not just being like the person walking behind the group, but also being in your own head about things that just don't matter. At that point, you think your clothes matter, you think your tastes matter. All right, so yeah, we're talking about walking behind people, feeling left out. That is something that's just from like I said, from 13, actually before that, because I did summer camp. My parents did so many activities, just like, hey, get out of the house, do outside things, do soccer, do baseball, do karate. And summer camp was one of those things where they're just like, try it. And I'm like, no, I don't want to. And there's just so many moments in going to camp, dive. It's funny thinking about the scene from Anybody But You, the diving scene. That was me, except when I was like 10 and couldn't dive. I was on the diving board and it was one of those bouncy ones. I think if it was solid, I would have been fine because it was bouncy. It was like, I knew it was going to push me up. It was going to make me go up in the air farther than I would have liked. So I just sat on the diving board for like 10 minutes until somebody had to come get me. So yes, many, many memories of that exact thing. Yep.
Yeah. And like the thing is, like, it's just so, like, it's so true. Like I was like, what do you do with your arms when you're walking? It's like, yeah. there's a lot of moments like that that feel like very true to growing up and stuff like that.
Yeah, and you're saying like you cry in a theater full of kids. I almost did. Yeah, it was not super packed. So there was like 2 seats free next to me, but yeah, the whole anxiety thing and the I think I have the quote here. Yeah, when the whole thing explodes, when why did it break? I think there's things coming through the tube and the tube breaks, and they don't have any way of getting to back to the headquarters quickly. And Joy is sitting there with all the mountains of regrets, basically, right? All those sad memories that she pushed to the back of her mind.
Yeah,
she's sitting in the pile and she's grabbing one. And she's like, "Is this what it's like growing up?" The joy just goes away, and I'm like, "Yep, that's yep." Unfortunately, that crushed me. That crushed me when she said that. So, yeah, it's really impressive that they can just keep doing that.
Yeah, it's amazing. Pixar always kind of finds a way to keep takes these weird abstract things and visualize them in a really compelling way that doesn't feel gimmicky at all.
Yes, so definitely had a very good time with that. Inside Out 2 still in theaters. Should be for quite a while. That's the thing.
Right.
when things are working, when things are making money, they'll keep it in theaters. So definitely have at least a couple more weeks to check that out in theaters. So that's a review of Inside Out 2. If you agree or disagree with our takes, email me at midnightfilmpod@gmail.com. With that, let's get to our 10 best movies of the year so far. Like I said before we started recording, we'll probably get through this pretty quickly just because we've talked about some of these things. I think we have talked about some of these things, I should say, in detail fairly recently. But like I was asking you also off mic.
Very recently.
Some very recent movies.
Like 30 seconds ago.
Wow, okay. Some very recent movies are going to be on our list. So let's get started, shall we?
Yeah, let's go for it.
So my number 10 is a movie I saw 2 days ago. It is a movie called Thelma. It is a movie some people have talked about. Cinema Joe on TikTok talked about this movie being one of his favorites he's seen this week. This is a movie, I think this is a directorial debut by Josh Margolin. It's his only movie here on Letterboxd. It is a movie, like I said, starring June Squibb, who played Nostalgia in Inside Out 2. Apparently, she's been doing voices for a while. She was the Margaret, the store owner in Toy Story 4. She was Gerel, Gerel, in Soul. She was Nana in Palm Springs. Are any of these sounding familiar to you?
I mean, I've seen most of these movies, but I can't pinpoint. I don't remember who Nana was in Palm Springs.
Apparently, she was Jimmy's grandma in Ralph Breaks the Internet. I don't know. But anyways, June Squibb, 93 years young. One of her breakout performances in this movie, and she's incredible. Apparently she did her own stunts, which was, if you watch this movie, you'll know what I'm talking about. The way they shot this, I was like, there's no way she did that. Holy shit, she did that. Okay. Really, really fun. The editing style is very reminiscent of Everything Everywhere All at Once. That sort of manic back and forth. What do you call that? Whip pans back and forth. That very quick, snappy score. Really keeps you moving. It's a 98 minute thriller. It's about an old woman. It's basically, you know what it is, Derick? It's the movie. It's The Beekeeper that you saw, but if the old woman got her own money back as opposed to Jason Statham doing it for her. She basically gets a phone call from her son, which is very prevalent right now, which is very scary. That, I don't know if you've heard of this, where you'll get a phone call from somebody saying like, "Hey, I'm this person and I got an accident and you have to send me money." Have you heard of this scam?
I mean, I believe you've mentioned it to me multiple times, but yes.
Okay, all right. So she gets that scam. She gets that scam phone call, and she believes, and she sends $10,000 cash to this PO box that was, thankfully near her. So she finds out where the PO box is, goes and finds it, and confronts the guy. This is a very good movie. This is June Squibb, like I said, newish actor named Fred Hickinger. He's very funny in this. He's basically like every Jason Segel character in in the mid 2000s, that sort of, Arrested Development type, 20 something, has no ambitions or anything, and gets shit from his parents for being, stoner guy. He's that guy. We have one of the last performances by Mr. Richard Roundtree, Mr. Shaft himself, is in this movie right before he passed away in 2022. Yep. We have Miss Indy Darling from the 90s, Parker Posey playing his mom, Gail. We have Clark Gregg.
Parker Posey.
Yeah, Parker Posey's great. I still have a crush on her. Still have a crush on her in this movie. Clark Gregg plays the father. He's very good in this. And we have Malcolm McDowell, who's in this movie as well. So yeah, very, very, very fun. I had a lot of fun with this. I brought my mom. This is the movie I was talking about that played at Triplex that was packed. Very, very funny. The audience was loving this. They laughed a lot, and cannot recommend this movie enough. Very funny.
Very nice. Thelma, you said, right?
Yes, sir. Yep, it's in theaters right now. It's probably one of those that'll be on VOD in like 7 weeks. So you can catch it there if you can't catch it in theaters. Yes. All right. Yeah. What is your number 10?
My number 10, and I know this is going to make you sad that it's this low on my list, and I would like to put a disclaimer, that this is a very rough ranking. This is not. I did not put the thought into this that I'm going to put into my year-end ranking, so they might be completely jumbled. The one that I have at number 1 might fall behind the ones that I have at 2 and 3 and 4, or not even fall completely off the list. Who knows? But that being said, my number 10 is Dune Part 2. Good movie. Great movie. I didn't love it as much as you did, but I did like it a lot. We talked about this a lot recently, so I'm not going to go really into it.
Yeah, do we want to do the thing where it's like, nope, that's later. We'll talk about it later.
Well, I'm not going to talk about it much either way. So yeah, moving on. Dune 2.
Dune 2. Yes. Dune 2.
Dune 2. You're doing your mom.
All right. Yes, my number 9 movie of the year so far is Challengers. Great movie. Really love the bodies. Yeah, the fucking score, man. Jesus. Yeah. Oof. Yeah, bodies. Mike Feist. We'll talk about him. We'll talk about Mike Feist later. This might be another breakout year. Another year of young breakout actors. Definitely Zendaya, breakout year for her. Not breakout, but you know what I mean. She's been in quite a few things. Joshua Connor, Daryl Appling. Great movie. Sexy movie. Go see it if you haven't. My number 9 is Challengers. What's your number 9, sir?
Inside Out 2.
Okay.
We just talked about it for 3 minutes. So, you know what? It squeaked into the list. I didn't have it in there initially, but I was like, let's put it on here. So we already talked about it a bunch, so we don't need to talk about it anymore. But yeah, this movie, at least for halfway, is on my top 10. Yeah,
Inside Out 2 is my number 8 film of the year so far. Squeaked in there at number 8. So yeah. That was my number 8. Derick, what's your number 8? Blast and through these.
My number 8 is another one that came out recently that I loved a lot more than most people. It's The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. This is just some Guy Ritchie shit. This is just a bunch of guys go and shoot Nazis through the heart. Like this movie has got fucking Henry Cavill looking small next to a dude because it's Alan Ritchson. Like it's fucking great. If you want to just see, it's just like Guy Ritchie's Inglourious Bastards. It's awesome.
Very cool. Did want to say one little disclaimer is, the movies we're talking about here today, and of the year, top 10 of the year, they're all at least 9s. I forgot to mention that they're all at least 9s. The difference is one's a 9.3, one's a 9.4. They're all very good, including we'll talk about honorable mentions before number 1, but just want to put that out there that. We're ranking these, but not really. A lot of the stuff is kind of arbitrary at this point, but just putting that out there.
Yeah, they're not necessarily 9s for me at this point. But I don't think that's the thing. This year I think has not been as strong as previous years. I think that's a big effect of the writer's strike. But there's still at least 8s. All these.
Yes. So that was your number 8. My number 7 is Civil War. Like I said, we talked about this before. When super depth of it, yes. one of the big ones. You really, everyone should see this, especially the people that need to see it but won't.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
What is your number 7?
My number 7 was my most anticipated movie of the year, but that is Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Love this film. Love this film franchise. Not quite as good as the Caesar trilogy, but well worth it. Really glad to go back to this world. And this is the only big summer movie, I guess, other than Inside Out, that is on my list.
All right. My number 6, you talked about already. Dune 2 and Your Mom. Number 6, we'll see if if it moves any higher at the end of the year. But I don't really see it moving higher, actually. If I mean,
with other things coming out, it might go lower. That's how these things usually go.
It's entirely possible, yes. What is your number 6?
My number 6 is one that I wasn't even sure if I was going to put on the list, but I talked about it recently, Young Woman in the Sea. This movie really surprised the hell out of me. This is not a movie that was on my radar at all, and it's just a good movie that it just feels like a 90s, just feel good biopic sports movie that I loved. I talk about it in depth on this show. I also did a whole bonus Patreon podcast on Underrated Disc 2 about it, so I don't need to talk about it anymore. But this is a very good movie. Go see it. It's going to be on Disney Plus soon, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, of course. Yes. Top 5 movies of the year so far. My number 5. Oh, then that's the other thing I forgot to mention was my list is essentially I've given over completely to my art house guy. My little art house grumbling inside me is at the wheel for definitely the top of this list and for some of the stuff at the bottom and some of my honorable mentions. We talked about this a lot when we talk about making lists and how we feel about putting stuff on there that's out there and known as opposed to stuff that isn't. A lot of stuff is just like I said, just gave over to what is my favorite, what do I personally love, as opposed to what do I want people to watch, and opposed to what do I think people are going to watch. Is this accessible? Is this something that a lot of people are going to listen to this and go, oh yeah, that sounds like something that would be for me? No. This is for me. This is my list. It's not like yours.
That's the point.
Yes.
No, mine is. This is a Derick list. My list is not about anybody else other than me. These are my favorite movies, and that's as far as it goes.
Yeah. Again, so talking about Inside Out stuff, I get very in my head about making lists. So with that said, my number 5 favorite movie of the year so far is Perfect Days. Wim Wenders' Perfect Days. Very meditative depiction of work in Tokyo, about taking pride in your work. And I've tried to look up if it was available anywhere, and I think it's on streaming on Mubi right now. So if you have a movie, you can check it out there.
Okay. Perfect. I still haven't seen this one yet.
Yeah, it's very good. I think you enjoyed it very much.
Okay.
Yep. So that's my number. Yeah, number 5 is Perfect Days. Derick, what's your number 5?
My number 5 is the first of my double feature of lesbian crime movies, and that is Drive Away Dolls.
Yes.
Speaking of things that I don't think people are this movie did not do well critically, financially, anything like that, but I thought it was amazing. I loved this movie. Really fun, quirky movie. Ethan Coen, so half the Coen brothers directing this movie. It really got those Coen sensibilities that I love so much. Just great, weird, quirky love story between Mark Qualley and Geraldine Viswanath. And it's on Peacock now, so check it out. This movie's awesome.
Yeah, very cool. That just missed my list, unfortunately. My number 4 is another very, very recent movie. I believe I saw it in the last couple of days. That is one of the big releases of the week. It is Jeff Nichols' newest film, The Bikeriders. Loved it. Gave it 5 stars on Letterboxd. Wrote up a pretty lengthy review. Actually, one of my best reviews. If I talking for myself, it is one of my best reviews I've done so far. You know how Derick, there is that phrase the director is an actor's director. I'm an actor's audience. Give me a good cast. Give me a really great performance. I'm there. That you got me. 3/4 of the way there, and a good script and a good cinematography, good music, good story. You've got a 5-star movie in my book, and this is that. This is some of the best performance I've seen out of Jodie Comer, Austin Butler, Tom Hardy, great supporting cast, Michael Shannon, Mike Feist, like I said, Boyd, our boy Boyd Holbrook, great in this as well. Just incredible. Really, really, really dug it. Cannot recommend this movie enough. The Bikeriders.
Right. I need to check this one out. It's got a Mount Rushmore of people who do weird voices and accents.
It really does. Tom Hardy and Austin Butler and Jodie Comer. Yep.
Yeah, all
really,
three.
Really does. It's so good, dude. It's so fucking good. So yeah, Bikeriders, my number 4. Derick, what's your number 4 movie of the year so far?
So completing my lesbian period piece crime movies, Love Lies Bleeding. This is one of those Rose Glass's sophomore effort. One of the weirdest fucking brilliant movies there. I still don't even have this like with an official rating on Letterboxd because I'm like, what do I even rate this fucking thing?
Yeah.
It's a movie I really need to go back to. You know, it's a vibes movie, right? And
Yeah.
the vibes in this movie, Katie O'Brien, Kristen Stewart, whatever the fuck Ed Harris is doing, God, it's just a great, like, it's so gritty and weird, and it's just the right amount of existential and weird without it tipping over into nonsense for me. So yeah, this one, it could even go higher at it, as the year goes on. I just didn't know how to rate it, and
Yeah.
my top 4 are almost interchangeable at this point.
Yeah. Just got edged out. Love Lies Bleeding got edged out by Thelma at the last minute, unfortunately. So sitting at number 11 on my honorable mentions.
Ironically, this movie's edging,
not Goonies, edging. My number 3 movie of the year so far is The Taste of Things. Again, talking about my little art house gremlin taking the wheels. Not Jesus taking the wheel, but my little art house gremlin taking the wheel for my list this year. Taste of Things, Tran Ang Hong's meditation on food and, like I said, work, and just beautiful looking food, beautiful looking countryside, great performances, great little story. Taste of Things, my number 3 of the year so far.
Just missed my list. I had it in my list, and then I booted it out once I saw Inside Out 2. But very, very good movie. Great food porn.
Yes. What's your number 3 movie of the year so far?
My number 3 is one that you had brought up a little bit ago, and that is Civil War. We talked about this movie at length. Oh, yeah. So I don't need to rehash it too much, but great movie. Not what people thought it was going to be. Not a, dissertation of the political climate today, but just kind of about how authoritarian regimes rise up and our responses to them and all that. It's complex and interesting, and it's great. A24, Alex Garland at his best.
Yes, absolutely. My number 2 favorite movie of the year so far is Peak. Well, it's almost Peak Me. My number 1 is obviously Peak Damian, Peak Our House, Peak everything. My number 2 is extremely long titled Humanist Vampire Seeking Consenting Suicidal Person. This is, a long title, weird movie, but it's got so many of the things I love about movies, about storytelling, especially genre storytelling. It is obviously vampire, so it's got that horror genre in there. It's got indie weirdness. It's got like a Ghost World feel to it. It's got so much of the stuff I love. Just weird background music that I've never heard before that I have on my Spotify rotation now. Really great deadpan performances like Wes Anderson stuff that I love. So it's got this melding of all of these different themes and genres and tones that I fucking love. And just love this so much. Humanist Vampire Seeking Consenting Suicidal Person, I believe, is on VOD right now. I believe it's also on Mubi. So if you want to check it out,
because I didn't think it was out anyway. I thought it was still. I knew it had done festival stuff last year. I didn't think it had even secured a release date or a distributor yet.
I think it might be in very select theaters. It's very select.
It's not. I just looked up the Wikipedia.
Oh, wow.
It's it never got a distributor. So this movie isn't even out yet. So I might be a 2025. It might be on my 2025 list. We'll see.
It very well could be. So that's my number 2. Derick, what's your number 2 favorite movie of the year?
My number 2 is so far is I'm wondering if it's maybe going to be your number 1 because it hasn't come up on either of our lists yet, and it very well could have been my number 1. But it is Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. Fucking this movie rips. George Miller, fucking 80-year-old madman, so fucking cool. Anya Taylor-Joy, kicking ass. Chris Hemsworth. So it's fucking rad. It's fucking Mad Max shit happening. We talked about it a lot last week, so I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, good pick. I enjoyed it very much. I'm trying to see where I put it. It's just outside my top 10. Number 13.
Oh, interesting. Okay,
yes.
I was like wondering if it was going to be number 1 because it hadn't come up yet. But yeah, okay.
Do you have any idea what my number 1 favorite movie of the year so far is?
Oh man, what? That's a good.
Weird indie, weird little
Oh,
indie thing.
it's fucking. What's it called? I saw the
Weird.
TV glow. It's
Yes,
I saw the
sir.
TV glow.
I saw the TV Glow. It is my number one favorite movie of the year so far. Again, my little art house, my little gremlin, my little indie, my little nostalgia demon, grabbing the reins here, putting this thing at number one. Don't care about anybody else's opinion. Justice Smith, Bridget Lundy Payne, Jane Schoenberg, second directorial effort. Incredible. Loved the feeling of it. Gives you that summer nostalgia feel, Pete and Pete feel, Are You Afraid of the Dark feel. Yeah, just hit me right there in the feels. Love this movie. My number one favorite movie of the year so far.
This is a great movie. There's a great trend. There's I liked some different things about it than you do. I think what didn't hit as hard for me, but the things that I really enjoyed about this movie was the trans metaphor parts to it. This movie is definitely somebody who has Reddit has been like, "Are you an egg?" And I'm like, "No." But definitely, and if you know what an egg is, then you'll understand. Yeah. I think that this, obviously is made by a trans director, and it really encapsulates that feeling of questioning and wondering, your own gender and stuff like that, and me eventually coming out and realizing that I was non-binary and stuff like that. They're obviously different than going through a whole gender transition, but it's something I could relate to a lot in this movie.
Very cool. Yeah. So that is our top 10 favorite movies of the year so far. Right in with your own list.
Wait, is it?
Did you do Furiosa?
You that was my number 2. You do this every single time. You skip my number 1.
Oh, okay. Well, you mentioned
Furiosa.
All right.
I said it was my number 2, and I was like, I'm curious if this is my number 2 is going to be your number 1.
Okay. You're right. I'm sorry. What is your number 1 favorite movie of the year so far?
All right. So my favorite movie is, you mentioned how that was a very Damian movie. This is a very Derick movie because it's got the house music, it's got the love triangle, it's got lots of makeouts with Zendaya, and it's got fucking tennis in it. Challengers! This movie fucking rips. I goddamn love Challengers. It's like a movie. Oh my gosh. And right up till the end. It's a movie that just it has you. I love sports films. I've talked about it a lot, and this absolutely captures what makes sports films great: the drive, the challenge, the back and forth, and it manages to, much like Inside Out 2, make the kind of like abstract emotions and feelings. It personifies them. It does that with the struggle between these three people by doing that through tennis. So what, Challengers, number 1 on my list. I'm not sure if it'll hold, but thinking about it, really could have been any of the top 3 or 4. But God, Challengers is a great fucking movie that I really am excited to rewatch when it drops on, whatever streaming service it's going to be in.
Yes. Great movie. Loved them all. Loved all these movies. Yeah, loved all the ones you mentioned. Loved all the ones that are on my list. And so we'll do a little bit of honorable mentions. I have 25 on my list. I won't name off all the other ones, but like I said, Love Lies Bleeding just outside of the top 10. At number 11, one I didn't mention was Evil Does Not Exist, the racist Gucci Hamaguchi film.
I missed my chance to see that. I'm so mad at myself. Yeah,
I know.
It was in theaters around me, and I missed it.
Yeah, my number 12, number 12 favorite movie of the year so far. Again, these are all very, very close. Loved them very much. Tell me some stuff that's on your honorable mention list.
I think I only had one, honestly, and that was The Taste of Things. I didn't really go too deep. I kind of was like, basically, when I made this, I was like, there's 10 movies that I really enjoyed so far this year.
Yep.
There was no, except for when I had to put Inside Out 2, and I was like, I got to kick one of them off. I didn't really have to kill any of my darlings with.
Hello, future people. Damian here. Had a little snafu on the recording side on my end. Derick got all his stuff in, but unfortunately I lost the last half hour of my side of the conversation. But I'll summarize my stuff here. We did just do the Letterboxd shuffle again, going back to that. So my assignment was Cloud Atlas. Derick was very excited about that. So I'll be watching that for next time. Derick's assignment was, but I'm a cheerleader. Next time stuff was just A Quiet Place Day 1. I'm very excited about that. I think Derick was like a 6. I was in at an 8. Horizon American Saga, I was at a 7. Derick was at like a 4 for that. An anticipation level. Daddy-O was a random one I put in there. He's like at a 2. I'm like at a 4. Very interesting. Dakota Fanning, Sean Penn movie on the 28th. On June 5th, we talked about Despicable Me. I said, we're going through the Despicable Me movies. I'm up to Despicable Me 2. I still have to see 3, and Minions Rise of Gru. So that movie comes out on July 3rd. We talked about Beverly Hills Cop coming out, Maxine coming out. Those are some stuff we're excited for, variably excited for. Maxine, Dee Dee, and Janet Planet are very independent, small movies about kids growing up in the summertime, so I'm very much looking forward to those. Derick, not so much. And I will include Derick's plugs, and also Derick watched and finished Station 11, so I'll include his take on that, and I'll smush that in with his plugs. I'll do my plugs now. You know the stuff. You know the drill at this point. Go to medium.com. Go to Substack. I wrote a lot about the Bikeriders, which you heard about. That was not deleted. That was recorded. So you heard me talk about the Bikeriders and loving it. And that was my number 4, I believe. Derick hasn't seen it yet, but I wrote up a thing on that on medium.com. That's on my Letterboxd and also on Substack. So go to my linked tree to see all of that stuff. My Midnight Film Pod, 400 away. I think I'm 300 away from 2,000 followers. Get me to there, please. Go to Film Essayist on YouTube. Go to Spotify for podcasters to make a podcast. Go to my interview with Cinema Tech, B.R. Yeager. He wrote the book Negative Space. Game developer Anthony Glagos. He works, does a podcast called Rebel FM. It's about video games. It's very good. Check that out. Mike Fanboy did one of the most downloaded episodes so far. iFanboy, Connor Kilpatrick, and Josh Flanagan. Deanna and I broke down Succession Season 4 and The Bear Season 2. Bear comes out on June 27th. That all drops at the same time. Derick was excited about that. So check all that stuff out. I believe that's all the stuff I talked about. So with that said, I'm going to let you listen to Derick's thoughts on Station 11. I'll let you listen to his thoughts on, I think that's about it. I might include some other stuff, but yeah, sorry about that, but we got most of the stuff. We got most of the stuff in there. Have a wonderful July 4th. See you later.
Station 11 was great. Station 11 is a very, very good show, especially as, me having my background in theater, being a theater major for a little while, doing it in high school, all throughout high school. That's exactly what theater kids are like, so that's very accurate. But it also, I think it captured the importance of art and community in times of tragedy. It's interesting because it's this movie or this show that's set like it feels like this is somebody was like, what if COVID was a little worse, and wrote something. But the book, because it came out right around that time, but the book is from actually 6 or 7 years beforehand. It definitely has Damon Lindelof vibes for sure. There's a lot of coincidences and characters who meet up and near misses and things that are connected that you wouldn't expect. So I dug it. For the most part, the ending I was mixed on. Some of the ending stuff was really great. I cried, spoiler alert, when oh my gosh, Kristen and Cheevan met back up again after so many years on the journeys that both of those characters went on. I thought that was amazing. I really did not enjoy the ending of fucking The Prophet. I hated that guy. I was like, why are we giving baby napper fucking psychopath fucking cult leader a happy end? Well, he gets to meet his mommy again. I just really was like, okay, Hitler had a mom too. Fucking, are we gonna meet the moms of all the fucking red bandanas out here? I don't know. I did not like that. But other than that, though, it was a very good show. I really liked just kind of the way that it's a post-apocalyptic thing, and there is danger in the world, but it's not like a Last of Us, where that's what it's all about. It's all about like survival and stuff like that. It's like these people have mostly normal lives and they go around performing Shakespeare and shit like that. And yeah, I thought it was really good. I'm really glad you suggested it, and I'm glad I finally got to watch it. By the way, the girl they got to play young Mackenzie Davis is so good, to the point where, like, I was to say, the point where, like, that first episode, way before you see, because I knew Mackenzie Davis was the main character, and I was like, oh, is this going to be Mackenzie Davis? Like, she seems very, and maybe it's the eyebrows or something that they put on her, but I was like, she's definitely giving Mackenzie Davis vibes, and she kills it. Like, all the stuff with her and, like, you know, that, like, whenever there'd be the flashbacks and be her and, like, Frank and Cheevan, like, that shit was so good and so heartbreaking. Yeah, and like I said, it's a big thing is just, like, these seemingly insignificant moments where we meet somebody can end up being the definitive moments in our entire lives. And even if it's something that it might last only a few months or something, they're profoundly impactful on you. All right, yeah, well, my plug is the Underrated Movie Podcast, the other podcast that I do that releases opposite Mondays of this one, where we talk about underrated, underappreciated, and under-the-radar films. The one that I just wrapped up a mini-series where I had talked about alternate versions of films that were underrated. So, the last one I did was with my buddy Kurosh Jozavi. We talked about Kingdom of Heaven, Ridley Scott's director's cut, which vastly improves that movie. So that was a lot of fun. Next week, after the miniseries is wrapped up, doing something a little bit different, I'm talking about Interstellar 5555, or Interstellar 45, this is called, which is, for people who don't know, the Daft Punk feature-length music video. Basically, Daft Punk got a legendary animator from Japan and made a whole movie out of their album Discovery. I discussed that with Brad the Baron from the album Concept Hour. I was also on his show recently talking about Discovery. So that was a lot of fun. That was a really interesting episode. Really had a lot of fun with that. Check out also Underrated's Patreon, Underrated Disc 2, by going to patreon.com/Underrated Movie Podcast, and check out all the other stuff from underratedmoviepodcast.com. And I've been Derick. Bye.